powerful king doesn't fear enemies. He fears looking weak. So when a rival nation insulted his flag at sea, King Alaric didn't hesitate. His council begged for patience. His merchants begged for negotiation. But Alaric heard only one sentence in his head. If I let this pass, I will look small. So he chose war. Not because the kingdom was ready, because his pride was. At first, the decision felt glorious. Banners rose. Drums echoed through the capital. The court cheered as troops marched out like a parade. And in the first months, it even looked smart. A few victories, a few captured ships, a few public celebrations. Then the war showed its real face, the invoice. Because war doesn't just cost swords, it costs food, boots, horses, ships, iron, medicine, wages. And the king's treasury was built for normal years, not endless emergencies. Soon the ministers brought the uncomfortable numbers. Majesty, we can pay for this war for 1 season. 1 season. That's when Alaric made the second decision. The decision that turned him from ruler to borrower. He refused to retreat. Instead, he borrowed. This story lives in an early 1700s-style kingdom. Ports, cannon foundries, busy markets, where money moved through coins, contracts, and reputation. Alaric didn't borrow from one banker. He borrowed from the city. His advisors created war bonds, public promises, paper certificates sealed by the crown. A simple deal. Give us silver today, and we will pay you back later, with interest. At first, people rushed in. Merchants bought bonds. Guilds bought bonds. Even nobles bought bonds. Because lending to a king felt safe, and because the interest looked irresistible. So the king got his war money. The army stayed fed. The ships stayed at sea. The court breathed again, and Alaric told himself, this is not debt. This is strategy. But debt is not a feeling. Debt is a clock, and the clock was now ticking in the treasury. Every month, interest accumulated, not loudly, not like a riot, like rust, quiet, certain. Then the war stretched. 1 year became 2. 2 became 3. The rival did not collapse. They adapted. They hired allies. They cut trade routes. They made the war more expensive without winning a single battle. And as costs rose, lenders started asking the question that always appears, will we still be paid? That question doesn't need an answer to cause damage. It causes damage by existing. Once doubt entered the air, everything changed. New bonds could still be sold, but only at a higher interest rate, because lenders wanted more reward for the new risk. So the king paid more to borrow more, just to keep the same war alive. And now, the war had a shadow war behind it, the war to refinance. The Minister of Finance warned Alaric, Majesty, we are not paying for the war anymore. We are paying for the money that pays for the war. That is the moment a kingdom becomes a debtor state. The king tried the usual fixes. He raised taxes. But taxes have limits. Push them too high, and people don't just complain. They change behavior. Merchants trade less. Smugglers appear. Farmers hide grain. Workshops slow down. So the tax base shrank while taxes rose. Then the king tried to control prices. He blamed greedy markets. But prices were rising for a simple reason. The kingdom was pulling wealth from the future to survive the present. Meanwhile, the lenders gained a new kind of power. Not the power of a sword, the power of refusal. Because if the bond market stopped buying, the army wouldn't be paid. If the army wasn't paid, the war would end. Not by defeat, but by bankruptcy. Alaric began to understand something terrifying. He still wore the crown, but his choices had narrowed. Even peace became expensive. Because peace didn't erase debt. Peace only revealed it. The war finally ended, not with a grand victory, but with exhausted negotiations. The capital celebrated honor, but the treasury was hollow. Now the real pain began. Interest payments became the kingdom's new permanent army, a force that had to be fed every year. To meet payments, the crown sold pieces of tomorrow, port fees, mining rights, future tax income. Each sale looked small. Together, they drained sovereignty, and the people felt it in daily life. More taxes, fewer repairs, lower wages, higher prices. Not because the kingdom lost land, because it mortgaged time. The war didn't break his army, it broke his future. Because the moment he borrowed to keep pride alive, he turned the kingdom into a payment schedule. And a payment schedule is a quieter kind of conquest.